we're here to make shepherd's pie, which of course requires potatoes. But
did you want me to peel these?
Well, we're going to talk about the potatoes first of all, because shepherd's pie, as I understand, is a meat dish made with lamb and potatoes on top.
By the way, this is Tony.
Oh, it's all right. So it is. Cynde over here, Cynde Sadler. Honorary member. Hang about.
Oh, I want to peel a potato.
Don't kill that potato. Yeah,
it's a potato. I need to peel it.
There are potatoes and potatoes, and when they're mashed, they go on the top of the stuff, and it becomes pie.
Okay.
Question is it shepherd's pie or cottage pie?
I don't know. I've never heard of shepherd's pie or cottage pie until I met you.
There you go. These people from across the sea, they do some things very well and some things less well. Hold on a minute. They peel potatoes very well, I'm sure. But listen, what I wanted to say was, when we're making, peel that potato.
Oh, okay. Look,
peel any way you want. Yeah, when you're making shepherd's pie, you need potatoes. Surprise, surprise. And when you're making cottage pie, you need potatoes. And when you're making ashish parmentier, which I discovered just today is the French version of shepherd's pie or cottage pie, you need potatoes. But what, of course, normally you do is you have meat, and we're going to come to the meat in a wee while. Once we've got all these potatoes sorted out.
Why are some of them red and some of them white?
Well, that's a good question. That's what I'm just coming around to saying.
Oh,
so once you're talking about mashed potatoes, some people will insist on having floury potatoes. And that's not necessary, because we can use a few floury ones and a few regular potatoes.
This is regular?
That's why we've got a nice regular potato. Isn't it regular to you?
Yeah, it's
very regular shape.
But I couldn't peel it.
You couldn't peel it because you were forbidden from peeling. But what I wanted to suggest was that instead of peeling it, we brush it or we wash it. So, creak, creak, we have the absolute superb, it's not a nail brush, it's not a toothbrush, it's a potato brush. So I'm going to give it a thorough scrubbing. Okay, so in my humble opinion, potato is essential, but potato with its peel is not such a bad thing. So if there are little lumpy, unpleasant things,
we call them eyes.
The eyes have it. The eyes have to be removed, preferably without cutting your partner in the process or cutting yourself. But
you could use the peeler.
I just want to get the eyes out. So
you're gonna poke the eyes out.
No poking, Lord. Just. So, in my opinion, that is a reasonably edible product, and of course. That one's more edible. My one is more edible than yours. Show them the nasty bit.
This one's got a little nasty bit
it's more than an eye, but
it's where the shovel hit or something. So I will just remove it.
Basically, you can make mashed potato with potatoes, regular ordinary potatoes, and if the peel isn't too heavy, then why not leave it on? Because isn't it true that the best bits of the potato?
Yes, I agree. I
peel?
always eat my peelings, but these are a bit heavy.
Exactly.
Yeah, that one's quite light. Shall I? I'll remove this one anyway.
I have here a perfect peely potato. So that will go in the pot. Just a minute. And we have the regular old floury potato here. I've heard about floury language. And what other floury things do we have in our lives?
My tunic is floury.
Absolutely. Perfect. So let's get rid of this lumpy potato.
But what about this? Ew.
That is a nice...
This is
alternative to potatoes, but in my opinion, you can't make shepherd's pie or cottage pie or ashish parmentier without potatoes. But I have heard that people, instead of having potatoes on the top, they mash up carrots. And of course,
you can't use
most
this
people,
can you?
Most people, remember we are in Finland and we're in a very hygienic country, are we not? And most people over here are very particular about maintaining their levels of hygiene. That's why we have rather a high level of intolerance, what's it called, allergy, because people are so used to wonderfully clean products. But I'm not suggesting you put that in as it is, but I would say get yourself a sharp knife and chop around, and surely there's enough usable carrot there to be...
Ooh, it's nice and orange inside.
Okay. And of course, maybe it can be given a thorough wash before we pop it in the pot. And there's a decent carrot here.
Actually, this is it's only black really because it's probably touched something cold.
It was actually in a plastic bag.
Oh, okay.
So that's of course a no-no. Put them in paper bags, and your vegetables will stay much fresher.
This one is nice and lovely.
Okay, but come to think of it, we've done the symbolic carrot. We'll leave this one.
Okay.
I'll put it behind my ear. But
what about this turnip?
Okay. Well, that object in your hand, madam, in my opinion, is a swede.
It's
not
a turnip.
Swede, but
it's a
Finnish
rutabaga.
Swede. Okay.
We call them rutabagas.
What do you do with them?
Eat them.
Okay.
And peel them first.
All right.
Do you want to peel it?
Do you bother to cook them?
Oh, yes. Well, you can eat it raw too.
Yeah, because when I came to Finland, it was a long time ago. I'm not that old. But anyway, when I came to Finland, every lunchtime restaurant had a big bowl of...
Oh, that's true. Yes, that's true.
Swede, sometimes known as
raw turnips.
Or turnips, yeah.
But in Scotland, they have a funny name for them.
Well, so in Scotland, when they're cooking haggis, they have nips. And of course, nips are turnips, as far as I'm aware, which might even be those Swede-looking things, slightly more orange than...
You mean the rutabaga?
Regular turnips. But so that's in my opinion, a good addition to the carrot. Once it's peeled, I would chop it up a little bit. No,
there you go.
Cut it. I get the green. Get rid of the green because they don't like.
Fussy.
Well, humans are not so partial to green vegetables, in my opinion.
These are very good for you, the green parts.
It might even be, but anyway, let's leave it out for a while. So, okay, basically now we've got our selection of vegetables.
Got some onion here.
We're going to cut the onion a little bit coarser. Sorry, a little bit the opposite of coarse, please. We're broadcasting this from a language school, which is why my language should be perfect, but of course it isn't. So at the moment, I'm thinking about how I use my language. Sometimes it comes out rather mixed up, but
like
anyway,
English.
Pure is what I was trying to
so
get the idea about.
Did you want this chopped more fine?
No, this one here needs to be chopped more fine. Those are fine.
Finely.
Those are fine as they are, fine enough. But they shouldn't be mixed up.
Ah, okay.
And of course, when I'm cooking at home, I don't have the pleasure of a delectable American assistant. I'm only doing all these things myself. And so I have my own order. Some people would say it's not as ordered as it should be, but anyway, I try not to mix up the stuff I'm going to fry and the stuff I'm going to boil.
So you are going to fry these first.
But first of all, I'm going to have a quick tipple of my tea.
Is it spiked? Just wondering.
My tea is delicious as it is, spiked or not. Not spicy either. Okay, so I think this is all our vegetables. Yeah, we've got a little bit of compost to sort out.
Yeah, well, this is more compost. Yeah,
so let's add it to the compost bucket.
Okay. Lovely compost.
Excellent. Yeah. We have, of course, over here, very reliable, very hard-working cooker, which has been doing some of the work already.
Do you mean the stove?
No, I mean the cooker.
Okay.
Can't take them anywhere, can you? And some of the food, in fact, has been prepared. So we have a little bit of carrot and potato cooked together, now to be separated.
Okay.
So let's put
you cook them together and then separate them?
I boil them together because I think it's an efficient way of doing it.
Ecological.
And the other thing I always do is save the water because it may not be delicious as it stands or as it sits, but it's a good basis for making soup or even for adding to stuff that needs to be liquidized or made a bit more liquid.
Sure.
Can you get rid of the carrots from there? And I'll... Indeed. So these ones are going to go into the pot, the proper vegetables. Now we have a little bit of mashing to be done, and the next part of the process, of course, will be to get the meat side of things sorted out. I think we're going to use just a modest amount of onions today, but we also have a very modest amount of potatoes. But let's get our mashing equipment ready.
Could you hand me the masher, please?
So we have a wonderful, we didn't bring the efficient mechanical, electric, wonderful masher that me and my wife have at home. My wife and I, excuse me, language correction there. But we have this wonderful fork here,
please hand me the masher.
Fork, which some people would find perfect to mash the potatoes with, just like this.
Oh.
However, my assistant here insists upon using this, which I thought was a truncheon. But what I wanted to point out was that they should be mashed dry. That's maybe the most important thing. So whether you try and mash them like this, which is
should we have a race
awkward,
and see who can mash them quicker?
No, you mash away. I bow to your authority.
Good man.
While she's mashing, I should be warming up the milk. I can find the right pot for it. Here we go. So we need to have a little bit of warm milk to aid the process. So,
okay. Do you want lumpy or no lumps?
No, not lumpy.
Okay.
So these truth to tell, these potatoes here had lost their skins before I was able to protect them. Okay. Is that not right?
Yeah.
You dispatched the skins immediately.
They're here in the compost if you want them back.
No, I'll leave them for the compost. So
okay.
So hold on, this has got to be warm in my opinion. So that's why we wait a couple of seconds for this to warm up. I would probably put butter in if I was doing this at home on my own. I think we're going to cut that corner. We'll leave the butter out for the moment. Put the milk
I would put butter in it without the milk, probably.
So I'm putting, because we've got a very modest amount of potatoes, I guess I'm putting about 3 tablespoons.
The mash.
So very modest amount of mash. And it's already quite liquid, isn't it?
Well, it's mashed. It's, mashy. Mushy.
It's a bit mushy. Yeah. So the milk is pretty much hot. And like I said, I would put a knob of butter in there to start the process off.
Yeah, that would give it a little
to melt
bit more.
it, of course. But warm milk, partly possibly to keep the food warm. I don't know. It just seems to work better. So how do you mash it? Oh, you still use your truncheon. Okay, go ahead. Don't let me get between you and your mashed potatoes.
But would you like to use the fork instead?
No, I'm leaving it up to you. Okay.
This way you can sort of almost whip them.
Say that again.
You can almost whip them with this.
Of course, if you have a machine, you can.
No, with this tool, you don't need any machines. This tool is it.
Okay.
Look how nice
it looks really creamy. Looks really nice.
See? You learned something today.
Hopefully, hopefully I'll remember it tomorrow. Okay. What I was going to say was our kitchen here at the Finnbrits. We're in Helsinki, by the way, Helsinki, Finland, and we are operating in the rather modest kitchen of it's the Finnish British Society, and it's also the Finnbrit Language Training Centre. So it's not designed for a cordon bleu cooking course.
I was just going to say the opposite. The Finnbrits.
Well, we've got the basics that matter.
Public
That's
kitchen.
The point. One of the basics, of course, which Cindy just had in her hands, one of the absolute basics. And the one we have is the Worcester sauce, as she was trying to say. I think she's learning also how Worcester is pronounced when it's being said in a British way. Unfortunately, the Marmite pot got left behind. So where I would be using Marmite a little bit soon, to come very soon, Marmite is not around now. But we'll come back to the Marmite and to the Worcester sauce. So, Cindy, can you chop my carrots fairly small? I mean, you okay? She's chopping them long ways. Sometimes I chop them sideways. She's chopping them long ways. Chop them any old way you choose. It's kind of more fun to. You can, make different geometrical shapes as well.
Little diamonds.
Oh, wow.
Salmiakkis. I'll make salmiakki shapes.
So I have never cut my carrots so small, but there again, we're living and learning.
I've been cooking for many years.
She's older than she looks. No, she's not. She's younger than she looks.
I was just leaving. Bye.
Okay, but now the main vegetable components are ready. Like I said, I would have added swede or turnips, or what else do you call them?
Rutabaga.
Rutabaga.
Okay, so shall we start?
We are going to prepare the meat now.
The meat.
So you've got your dessert to be prepared as well,
yes,
which is not mentioned in our poster or our description, is it? As far as I remember.
I don't see
so
any.
This is a little bit of a
surprise.
Yeah. As we have discussed, shepherd's pie would be made from sheep, lambs, and today we are not doing that because we're not real shepherds. We are vegetarian shepherds, so one might suggest that a vegetarian shepherd would have alternatives to lamb. He could use beef, of course, but that wouldn't be really vegetarian, and he would have, of course, called it cottage pie then. Hence, without naming any product names, we have tumma soja rohe. I practiced saying rohe this afternoon.
Rohe.
It's rohe.
Rohe.
Well, close enough, thank you. Soya is the critical word, and this is the dark version, and that's what we're going to use to
So textured
make
vegetable protein, I guess it's.
As the lady said, TVP,
Yeah.
which I remember having in the 60s, and it pretty much looked just the same as this looks. Some sort of soya product which looks pretty authentic, actually. Looks quite like mince, but you know, why do we have to have things that look like the original? Well,
I don't know.
They're kind of maybe fun thing to try and emulate. Quite crunchy as it's raw, as it's So the question is really how you prepare this. Now, it hardly needs any cooking at all. So in fact, all we're going to do is mix it into the frying pan with whatever else we're frying. And the frying is going to include onion. It's going to include a little bit of oil. I brought this from home. It's dried tomato. There aren't many dried tomatoes in here, but it's the oil that I was interested in. So actually, we're going to cook.
Quite flavored. I'm sure it's delicious.
It's very flavored, yeah. And that's the thing with this stuff. You really need to add a lot of flavor to it. It doesn't taste of pretty much anything.
But it's English, you said.
Did I say?
Yeah, isn't it?
Well, I'm tempted to say don't believe a word I say, but I can't do that because people will stop listening to this. No, I ate it in England in the 60s, called TVP, and well, it's probably the same sort of product that's become more popular over here. But there are good alternatives, and the one which I would have probably recommended myself is lentils. So you know, soak up your lentils and make sure that the you know, they're sitting in the water for half an hour before you actually get it cooking. But lentils produce a bit of a mush. I mean, it's hard to make anything with any real body to it as the basis. Right. Remember, we're talking about a pie, which is potato on top, something we have today, carrots underneath it, and at the bottom is the meat idea. Yeah. So our meat product is going to be sitting at the bottom, soaking up whatever juices are going to be coming from the other vegetables. But yeah, without very much flavor. So that's the process which we're going to go through now. We've got some onions somewhere over there. We'll get those in a minute. And this is where these sort of extra additives come in handy. The Worcester sauce, very flavoursome, and we'll put that later on. I brought cumin down with me. I mean, you can put anything that you choose in shepherd's pie. It's a very, I would say, sort of a forgiving product, isn't it?
Well, it's what you've got in your larder.
Absolutely.
Really.
I think that's how it started up. I think it was whatever people found in their cellar.
In the larder.
Or in the larder, yeah.
Or in the cellar,
if
wherever.
you couldn't afford a larder, you would have had a cellar. Or the other way around. But anyway, you can pretty much put anything in to flavor your meat or your textured vegetable protein. And actually, I put the cumin into the potatoes. That's where I like to have that. And you can put cumin once it's gone into the pan when it's ready to throw in the oven. The whole recipe will be available online imminently. Not quite sure when, but anyway, soon we'll have it there. And it will give you the quantities that we're talking about, and it will talk about the process of preparing these things. It might be slightly different from what I'm doing now. What I was coming around to thinking of telling you was one of the secret ingredients. Secret, not so secret. This is sort of secret ingredient flavoring. This is the not so secret ingredient. Cindy, could you reach over to that little red box over there, which is not so secret ingredient once it's been revealed. So a little bit of alcohol or red wine is, in my opinion, one of the very nice things to add to your TVP. I'm putting in, I suppose, about half a glass. I'm putting in enough so it's going to basically soak that all up. I'm going to let it stand for just a wee bit. And then I'm going to try and get hold of the cooker. Are you going to be letting the cooker free? Can I use the front?
Yes, you can come now.
I can?
Yeah.
Excellent. So let this stand for a short while. I'll put in a wee bit more, a wee drum more. Of course, we're talking about vegetarian pie today. Didn't have it on the advertisement, but in the blurb, I think it mentioned the vegetarian option. If you don't want to go vegetarian, you can use regular meat. Just be careful that when you're actually cooking the meat, keep it fairly clean. Don't let it get too greasy. If you buy a greasy lamb, you're going to get a very heavy and a very greasy product at the end of the day. So we have the opposite problem. We have there's no grease in this. It's very, very, very dry, very pure. That's why I brought my oil down here. This dried tomato oil, and it was just what was in the larder, or in this case, my fridge before we left. So let's get some heat. How long do you need the cooker for?
I'm done.
Or is it a stove? Hang on.
It's a stove.
It's a stove. Okay.
But I knew what you meant when you said cooker.
Okay. I get a bit mixed up because I've been living here so long. What should I be saying, stove or cooker? Anyway, these kind of linguistic issues.
Would you like to have this burner that I'm using right now?
No, I'm happy with the front burner, because we're going to be frying. Let me just recover the onions. So here we have our chopped onions. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, mixed up with all the other goodies, but we'll have to work on that. So,
do you want some oil in the bottom of the pan first?
I probably would have used some butter, but the butter is also off camera, so let's leave the butter and let's use some of this. Is it on hot? Yeah.
Yes.
Aha.
We
have a technical glitch. No comment. So a dose of oil, enough to get the onions browned. But I'm going to use more oil when the meat goes in. Let's try and get the rutabaga out of the way.
Did you mean the swede?
What we don't have handy is a stirrer for this pan. It's a nice non-stick pan, so we need to not use these metal implements. Do we have a wooden stirrer? We have a wooden truncheon. So one thing we didn't remember beforehand, to have a suitable stirrer. There's something in there, isn't there?
Could be.
Yeah. Okay, this needs to be cooked up. Of course, when we are cooking onion, at least in my household, we are invariably cooking garlic with it. So I'm going to chop this up quickly. Chop quite small, I would say. I'll try and show you the compost. So onion, of course, flavoursome. Garlic, doubly flavoursome. Beware that some people are, if not allergic to garlic, some people are very sensitive. And of course, if you're teaching a class tomorrow morning and by unfortunate circumstance you forget to brush your teeth, good grief, what a fate. Now, I've sometimes had students as a teacher who have been eating garlic, and it's one of the most unpleasant things that I've ever experienced, is sitting in a room close up to somebody who's been chewing garlic. There's only one cure for that.
You have to eat some yourself.
She knows it. She's been around.
Yes.
Okay, so let's see when
it's getting there. They're already translucent.
So what else have we got to put in there? I actually would suggest that when you're making the meat, think of what's in the fridge. Okay, I wouldn't put swede in. I would consider it, but I probably wouldn't put swede in unless it was grated. Here is something which I've experimented with, putting in with the meat. Of course, this can be grated, turned over in the pan with the substitute meat. Okay, are we ready?
Yep.
Okay, let's throw that in.
Oh.
Okay, my assistant is, but she hasn't got a pinny on.
Oh, no, I don't.
I don't think she can be taken so seriously, these cooks who don't wear the proper uniform. Anyway, we'll manage.
Okay, would you like this zucchini in?
No, I would leave the zucchini now because it's optional. This kale is optional, and anything else that you think might add flavour to the product is optional. I would also use some of this.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Just to add a little bit of more moisture to it. So
there you go.
So it's really important that the meat product has plenty of moisture in it, because you're eating potato, carrot, which can be rather dry. I mean, of course, you can put butter on it. Let it cook a little bit more. Give it another few minutes. I would say, if it's meat, of course, it's got to be thoroughly cooked. You've got to be careful. Make sure it's
But it's going in the oven.
It's going in the oven, but I think they suggest that it partly for the flavour, also to get it thoroughly browned. Okay, browning isn't an option now for us, but actually maybe having the kale a little raw is preferable. So we mustn't cook it too long.
Yeah, so, I think it's
okay. So for the text of a vegetable protein, probably 5 minutes, depending on really we're just heating stuff up. So we have the bowl. I don't bother to put oil or butter in the bottom of the bowl. I think it's easily served. It may stick a bit on the bottom, but it's generally fairly liquid. That's the advantage of doing this. Let me get my hand cleaned up. We have the vegetables. We have, of course, cooked vegetables. So we get rid of the swedes. A layer. So we're talking about layers, aren't we?
Yes.
In this food. So a layer of vegetables. We've just got carrots here. It's still quite hot, that plate, isn't it? You can feel it from here. Spread them around.
Look how pretty.
Come again?
Looks pretty.
Looks pretty. It does indeed. Let's show the camera so they get the full.
Yeah, you can see it.
Because this is the best it looks in a sense. We're now going to try and hide all that with the potato, and because we've got a rather small amount of potato, do your best to get that out.
I need a slicky pot.
You need a
slicky pot.
A slicky pot.
Yes.
I wish I knew what that was,
but I'll use this spoon
she'll
instead.
manage.
Yes, the potatoes have cooled a bit, so they're a bit thick.
Yeah, and one of the tricky parts of this is to make the potatoes cover as much as you can of whatever is underneath, your vegetable and your meat substitute, or of course whatever else you choose. You can make basically a layered pie of this type. Cover it with, as I said originally, it doesn't have to be potato. Potato is probably the easiest thing to do, but spread the potato around. Swede is quite good, also mashed. And with butter, it's excellent, delicious. So this is a very artistic version of,
yeah.
But that's what we do.
A clover leaf here, 4-leaved clover, because the potatoes are a bit
clover
cold.
Leaf. That sounds an inspiring name.
It's a Morris dance, I think, that you wrote.
So there we go.
Yeah, this will have to do for now, but it looks beautiful because of the color.
Yeah, excellent.
So
we're going to leave that out. We're going to leave the raw carrot out. Don't keep that knife away from me. Oh, you're going to put that in. Okay, this is a version which I hadn't anticipated. A little bit of decoration on the top. You can put grated cheese on the top. That also adds to the flavour, of course. I suppose you could use a vegan substitute for that. I wish I knew more about vegetarian cooking. My vegetarian cooking is very pragmatic. It's unsophisticated, as I promised, but here we have a little more haute cuisine. Yeah. So
we pop that into the oven.
Having got this far, we check, is there anything else we need to do? There is one thing, absolutely important thing, one critical thing that both of us has forgotten to do. You're at a loss for words, aren't you? You haven't a clue what we forgot. We have plenty of implements around, but we don't have a teaspoon.
A teaspoon?
Yeah. I need a teaspoon, absolutely essential. In fact, I need 2 or 3 teaspoons in principle, but because we forgot about this, maybe 2 would do. We need to test it. How can you cook any food without testing it in the process? So to begin, one for you, one for me. And the potatoes, what do you reckon? Do you think they'll be okay?
Well, they're cold, but maybe they're warmed up by now by the food underneath.
Well, and they've been mashed with a sort of.
But don't you use like your finger for tasting? I mean,
no.
That's how I would do it. Just.
They could do with a little bit more salt.
Ah, salt.
Yeah. So, and of course, the other thing which we talked about, in fact, we've forgotten a whole load of things. We forgot lots of flavouring. But the cumin, in my opinion, is easily added at this stage. It's even a little bit decorative. But what also I forgot, and
the oil, yeah, I did ask you for it for a minute ago.
You did. Okay, we should have put this in when we had it in the bowl.
But put a little on the top.
Yeah, I'm going to spread it around a bit. I mean, this is going to be in the oven for, if I remember right, 20 to 30 minutes in my recipe, maybe even longer.
Oh, it really looks pretty.
So that's enough for that. This is, of course, very important for an English version shepherd's pie. This should have been mixed in with the cooking, but there we go. That will do for a while. And you can add it, of course, when you've got it on the table. So, you reckon that tastes good now, or good enough to be?
Yeah, it's good enough to go into the oven.
Okay,
yeah.
And having been in the oven, I suppose about, as I said, 20 to 30 minutes, with the fan, I put the fan on to get a little bit of colour on the top. And here we've got a slightly better covered product, a little bit more liberal with the potato. With our extra vegetables. So this is the way the product, maybe not should look, can look, let's say. Okay, but let's move over to the dessert.
Okay, the dessert, what I did is I started it earlier because of the time. This is 2 deciliters of cream, a big heaping tablespoon of butter, and 1.5 deciliter of brown sugar.
Brown sugar, or in Finland, what's it called?
Farinsokeria.
Soft brown sugar.
Yeah, so what I did was I slowly have been cooking it, and well, that burner was a little hotter, but over here it's cooler. And for about 10 minutes until it gets nice and thick. And we're going to serve that on frozen.
Are we going to tell them now?
Oh, okay, no, maybe not.
Yeah, because one of the things we were thinking about is the alternative serving suggestions for this shepherd's pie. This is a very British pie, and you'd never eat anything with it. Never eat anything. Of course, you do what you choose to do. I had shepherd's pie the other day with green beans, and it was good. It's a little bit of greenery. But one of the products that we have in abundance in Finland, you're going to. And in fact, the customers have been looking at them for the whole of the evening, haven't they?
They have, yes.
Ta-da!
Lingonberries. They're everywhere in Finland.
Yeah, and lingonberries are eaten in Finland with meat products, especially with reindeer, if you eat reindeer. But they're also wonderful. Actually, they're wonderful breakfast berries. You stick them in muesli, a few of them in muesli. They survive freezing very well.
It's mine. Yeah. Actually, don't have to freeze them, but I have them frozen in the freezer right now to take out.
The dessert is, in fact, frozen lingonberries and hot.
Yes, very hot kinuski sauce.
What sort of sauce did you say?
Kinuski.
Kinuski
sauce.
What exactly is that?
Well, it's cream
and sugar.
Brown sugar and butter, and you just boil it until it's nice and thick.
Basically.
Yeah. Yes. Probably a lot like butterscotch in a way.
Butterscotch, yeah.
So I'm just going to pour these on the frozen berries. They don't have to be frozen, but I think it's nice when they're icy cold.
And of course, you can have seconds of sauce and thirds of sauce.
Yes.
If the berries don't unfreeze, don't thaw.
So that's it.
That's it?
That's it.
All right. And what happened to our wine? Here we go. So we haven't actually used the black pepper. We haven't used this, which I wanted to add, or I wanted to
This is instant potato mash.
Yeah, instant potato mash.
We certainly could have mixed it with what we had to make more.
And we have plenty of that water from the cooking. I'm going to give you a very modest amount because we've only got a few minutes left. Because you're walking home.
Oh.
So, let's sit down. I guess I serve this one, you serve the next one. So, yeah, this is... How hungry are you on a scale of 1 to 9?
That's good. That's a little chunky. We're just going to take it.
Tasting. So, whoops. So this has been...
We do have wine glasses. We should have brought some in earlier.
Yeah, not to worry. I would have used mugs if I'd had the chance, because the Finnbrits, we have many... This is an ancient institution, isn't it?
It is.
It's 95 years old.
95 years old, yeah, come April.
We have some people here who've been here almost that long.
I understand that the Queen and Finnbrits are the same age.
Yeah, Queen Elizabeth, Elizabeth II. So, there we go. What should I say? It's a little bit dry. I did add, where's that oil? No, not to worry. But when I was cooking this, I added some oil, but it's turned out a wee bit dry. But too bad. But we'll enjoy it, hopefully. Okay, chin chin.
Chin chin.
Oh, hang on, you meant to say about the pie.
I'm getting ready.
Could be warmer.
Delicious. Delicious.
Not bad.
Very nice.
Shall I let you into a secret?
Okay.
Are we still online? Can I reveal this secret? Okay, I'll reveal it. So when I made this pie in advance, I didn't have any red wine at home. So actually, what I what's it called? Steeped. What I soaked. Sorry.
Nothing.
Well, of course, whatever alcohol you put in will evaporate, so there's no alcoholic content. I use dry sherry.
Oh, nice. It's the flavor that comes from the red wine.
Yeah, it's the same.
Wouldn't work with gin.
No, don't recommend gin. Okay, so I'm going to thank a few people for all that we've mentioned whose idea this was, and Ulla down here at the Finnbrits is the director here, and so she's organising lots of the activities or coordinating them along with a couple of other people working here. Thanks to Gary and Tulka for that. I want to thank my sister for those tasting tips. So tasting has to be done. We almost managed to forget that.
Okay.
Don't know how. And there's my little piece of paper which I've lost.
I put them here.
Ah, okay. Let's see.
We should also thank the people that are working around us today.
Absolutely.
We have Darminder.
Technicians who are, of course, behind the camera.
Valeria.
Who will remain unseen at the moment.
But they will eat some there.
Well,
their tongues are hanging, I can see from here.
Hopefully, yeah. I want to thank my first flatmate for a cookery book, which is sitting in the corner there, and is a Cranks cookery book. So we are indebted to some extent to Cranks. Chris from Vasa now. So he introduced me to vegetarian food. He was a vegetarian a long time ago, 40 plus years ago. And then there's another friend of mine who's been influencing my food preferences, who's Russell from Helsinki, or from just outside, Kannisto. So he's also an experimental cook and interested in the values of the food, the properties of the food, which bear in mind what we're eating in the planet, suffering as it is from over-dependence on meat and sugar, especially. I think we have to recognize vegetarian is a good way to eat, not exclusively. Then there's my wife. And we have to think about the wife. So thank you, Tina.
She's the one that puts the berries on the shepherd's pie.
But we didn't have berries. We had one berry, but we should have a few more berries, shouldn't we?
Do you want some berries on your pie?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So without Cindy and her berries, I wouldn't have got around to this. Yeah, just like that. That's it.
Oh, because they also look very pretty. I think your wife is very wise.
Yeah. So this is a very traditional way of eating this sort of meat and sweet and sour. Basically, a sweet and sour idea, which in Finland is quite uncommon. But here it is.
Here it is.
Okay,
should we have our dessert before the camera goes off?
Before we get too full?
Yeah, before the camera goes off. We can eat it. But I will give you a spoon. You can have these. And I'll just get another for myself.
So we got a shared?
Oh, we could share it. Yeah, that's all right. So let's see if they're any good.
Go.
Go. 1, 2, 3, go.
I started already. Okay, this is the first time I've had this as far as I remember.
Really? Really nice.
Oh.
You like it?
Excellent. I mean, very sweet.
And very
bitter.
sour.
Yeah.
Yes, because these are very bitter and sour.
I should have got the white wine, shouldn't I, for this one, the dessert?
You should have next time.
Yeah.
Don't forget all the wines that you need.
Excellent. Excellent. I'll have seconds, but we'll turn the camera off and then we'll feed ourselves. Yeah. So
okay,
I think that's
thank
good
you.
enough,
It
isn't
was
it?
really good. Yeah, I'm
thanks.
going to finish my food after, but yeah, thanks.
Thanks for watching, and hopefully you've enjoyed a little bit of fun at the Finnbrits.
And we'll post the recipes along with it somewhere.
Very soon.
Very soon.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.